Do you know that your mindset is a habit? Your sense of personal power is a habit. The quality of your relationships is an outcome of your interpersonal habits. Your net worth is based on your money habits. Your business success is built on your entrepreneurial habits. Your ability to create everything you desire is directly related to your habits. So I'm glad you're here right now listening to the Max Potential Habits podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Amanda Barrientez, the founder of NFA Coaching, and every week I'll bring you tips, tools, and inspirational interviews that will help you learn how to cultivate strategic habits that will set you up to be a NFA habits master so you can create the life and business of your dreams on your terms. Now let's get to it. Welcome back. Hello, everyone. Welcome back, or welcome for the first time. Today, we have Scott Aaron, LinkedIn lead generation specialist, brand builder, #1 best-selling author and speaker. People-focused and results-driven, Scott's strategic approach to teaching others how to create wealth online and organic traffic is the game changer when it comes to competing in a saturated digital world. I'm super excited to have Scott on today because we met through Instagram. As you know, most of my podcast guests come from Instagram, and I see something that catches my eye and I'm like, oh yeah, I got to connect with this person. He has incredible quotes on Instagram, and as I started to dig a little deeper, I found out that he's an awesome marketer, and I haven't had anyone come on to talk to us about LinkedIn and lead generation and some of those tips and strategies. So you all know that I like to bring you people who have been successful in their fields and their specialties. I like inspirational stories and people who are going to bring you a lot of value. So that's what you're going to get today. And we're going to focus some on LinkedIn, and we're going to learn about Scott, and you're just going to get your general amazing, awesome tips. So get ready and let's welcome Scott. Hey, Scott.
Dr. Amanda, thank you so much for having me today, and it's an honor and a privilege to be here.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to this. So I'm curious, tell us how you got into this world of marketing. It sounds like you had a good background story, and I want to hear kind of, from the days of old, how you got into this entrepreneurial coaching world.
Yeah, so, I love doing interviews. I love getting interviewed. I love speaking, so that's not an issue. And I'm a big believer that you have to connect your story to the audience because people don't know me from anyone else. But my goal, whenever I get interviewed or whenever I get on a podcast, I want people to feel relatable to me because I'm a person just like them. So it's really important to show vulnerability and show some things that you had to overcome. And I always like to share the story of how I got to where I am today, because the one thing that I do believe in is something that Robin Sharma talks about. He talks about brain tattoos, and he talks about moments or significant events in your life that happen for you, not to you, but for you, that really springboard you. And it's the best example I can give is if you're listening to this and you're from the United States, or actually, this could be something all over the world. When 9/11 happened, everyone remembers where they were at that exact moment when they found out. That was one of those most recent impactful moments that was a brain tattoo, and everyone remembers. And I relate that to individuals, whether it was a death in the family or a personal illness or some sort of tragedy. We all have these moments that shape the rest of our lives, where I wouldn't be sitting here with you today if that event never happened. So you have to understand, everything in life happens on purpose. There's a reason for it all. So for me, just to kind of speed up, my basic background is I grew up in a traditional Jewish household, which means you have a very overbearing mother, which she still is. God bless her. I still have to text her my itinerary when I fly, and I have to text her when I land. And I just turned 40, and I'm a father myself. So that just goes to show. But what that did was, when I was younger, I had my parents to fall back on to fight a lot of my battles for me. So I was the person in the group of friends that was bullied and picked on. I was an easy target. People could walk all over me because they knew I wouldn't do anything. I never retaliated. I obviously grew out of all of that as time went on, but that stuff really shapes you in your later adulthood, when you're getting that emotional maturity that you're seeking. And so my moment, I had a great life. I do not look back and wish anything to be different. My moment, my event, my brain tattoo happened when I was between 18 and 19. I am a fourth generation entrepreneur. My great grandfather fled Eastern Europe in the early 1900s and came to South Philadelphia and became a butcher. My grandfather, who is still with us, he's 91 years old. He was a pharmacist and had his own pharmacy. And my father followed suit, had a pharmacy, had a lot of industrial entrepreneurial businesses. And then there's me doing the online business coaching. So my father was always looking to expand himself, and he had always owned his own business. And in between my senior year of high school and freshman year of college, I started at the University of Pittsburgh. My father left the company that he was a partner with and actually became a general manager, managing someone else's company. And it was a physical rehabilitation company, much like NovaCare, if anyone's ever heard of that. It's where people go to get physical rehab. So that was kind of odd, because my dad had always owned his own businesses, but obviously we didn't think too much of it. And the summer after my freshman year of college, going into sophomore year, my family, we had a lot of family dinners. That was just part of our routine, and we were having a barbecue in the backyard. And my father said, "Hey, listen, we need to have a family talk." And that was not uncommon. We always had family talks and discussions. And my dad said, "Listen, there's some things going on with the new business venture. I'm going to be leaving, and I'm going to be opening a fitness club, a gym in downtown Philadelphia. But there are some lingering issues from the last job, and the federal government is involved." Now, that was really all that was said. I didn't really know too much past that. And my dad did mention that he was cooperating with the federal government to minimize whatever charges could be brought against him. And when sentencing day came, about 6 months later, I kind of got the sense that things were not going to work out maybe how my father intended, or maybe how I envisioned in my brain. Because when I looked to the right, where I was sitting behind my father with my mom and my sister, and I looked to my right on the opposing side of the courtroom, and I had family sitting over there, cousins, aunts, uncles, flesh and blood. And at that point, I knew something wasn't right. I knew people got really hurt in this business venture. And I guess what put the cherry on top was when the judge turned to my father and said, "Do you have anything else you would like to say?" And my father broke down crying and was apologizing and was begging for his freedom. So when all was said and done, my father was sentenced to 24 to 36 months in federal prison. And this 18 and a half, 19 years old, you can't emotionally digest that. It was one of those things. It didn't feel real. But that was the moment. That was the moment that my life was never going to be the same. So my father had two options when he was sentenced: that he could get taken by the guards and then transported to federal prison, or they said, "Listen, you can spend some extra time with your family over the next couple of weeks and they can drive you." And he obviously accepted the latter. And we were driving my father to prison, and everything was so stereotypical. The courtroom, prison, it was this long driveway hidden in trees, and then all of a sudden it opens up and it's like the prison. And the guards were actually waiting there to escort my father in. And I'll never forget what my dad said to me. He pulls up, and I was getting out to then drive my mom and my sister home, who were puddles in the car. And he said, "I love you." And he goes, "Now you're the man of the house." And I will never, and I will, like, saying that to an 18 and a half year old. And I will
yeah.
I will never forget that, because part of my adolescence was taken from me. I couldn't grieve. I couldn't really understand and absorb all that that was, because I had to be strong for my mom and my sister. At the same time, I was also notified that I was now the president and CEO of a fitness club in downtown Philadelphia. So I had to leave the
Wow.
University of Pittsburgh. I had to re-enroll at Temple University in downtown Philly. And, people that see me now, I've been a bodybuilder, fitness competitor, all that stuff. That's not how I was back in the day. I was a fish head. I had a big Jufro, and I had patchwork pants and Birkenstocks all year round, and I literally hemp everywhere. And this is who was going to be running the gym. So the hair came off and ended up falling out anyway. And I had to take ownership and responsibility for what was put in front of me. And I always tell people, in life, you will always have hands dealt.
Yeah.
Some of them are going to be shitty. Some of them are going to be really good. And I've had some shitty hands dealt, and I have not folded one yet. That doesn't mean I bluffed my hand. I always made my hand work for me to the best of my ability. So I dug into the gym, fell in love with fitness. And in the 2.5 years that my father was away, the gym grew from 300 members to nearly 1,100. I got my personal training certification, my sports nutrition certification, my group fitness instruction certification, and I was doing it all. Teaching classes, doing nutrition, training people, making money, growing this gym.
Okay, I got to ask you, when you heard this news, and I mean, I have a million questions that I could ask, but I'm going to ask this one first. When you got this information and you're in school, first, what were you studying in school?
Nothing.
You hadn't declared your major yet.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
joined a
Okay. So
fraternity.
nothing business related or anything. Were you prepared at all to take the business over? Like, did you have any business skills, or had your dad been grooming you, or?
Zero.
Okay.
I raked traps at a golf course and stacked beer at a beer distributor.
Wow.
That's what. So literally,
You really grew up overnight, and you just figured out
yeah,
how you just figured it out.
yeah. Like, so here's the thing. I could have crawled into a ball and cried in the corner. I don't know how to do this. I don't know. Or I just man up and just do it. And I went for it. And I've always been a people person. So, and I've always been big into human connection. I had a lot of friends. I'm very
Yeah.
sociable, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. And I remember in the gym where the front desk was, there was like this two-way mirror where you could look into the gym floor. And I remember seeing all these people working out. And they're fit and they look happy. And I'm like, I want to start being like that. And I started working out, and
Wow.
once you start, you fall in love with
Yeah.
fitness. I mean, once you start eating healthy and all that, you just want to continue it. So, the best education. So here's what I tell people. So, I do business coaching, brand coaching, all this stuff. People are like, where'd you get your certification?
Yeah.
And I say,
The,
life.
the school of life. Yeah.
And people are like, what do you mean? Like, here's the thing. There are probably great coaches out there that went and got programs and certifications, but here's what I know for a fact. The one thing that certifies you to teach someone else how to improve and better themselves in an area of your life that you've been able to is experiencing that for yourself first.
Yeah.
So everything that I teach, everything that I do, everything that I am is based off of my own personal experience and success, and I want to give that to others.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to highlight as well. I mean, the mindset and the ability to be dealt that hand and then decide. You basically took it on and said, okay, I'm going to man up and I'm going to decide and I'm going to take action and here we go. And you jumped in, it sounds like full force.
Yeah, and one gym, and my dad came back. We opened up a second location because things were going so well. And then
Wow.
2003, we were actually unintentionally approached by another family that offered us $1 million for both gyms.
Wow.
And
Was
we
when you stepped into the gym, was it already running successfully?
No, it was actually failing when my dad actually took it over and gave it to me. There was a
Okay.
two,
Wow. So
almost
you learned a lot. You've learned a lot.
oh,
And that was what year?
1998 into 1999. So
Okay,
yeah,
so you've
almost.
had a lot. And now since then you've been in business, entrepreneurially creating different.
I've never had a boss. I've
Okay.
always had to recreate and figure something else out. All I know how to do is to create things that help people, and I get compensated for coming up with a solution to a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is really what an entrepreneur is, right?
Exactly. And I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know any other way. This is the only, like, when the mind of an entrepreneur, you don't want to get inside my head. My fiance, who's sitting on the other side of this wall, she's an entrepreneur as well. Like, it's just, you don't, like, I could only be with her. Like, I've been through some stuff. I've been twice divorced. I have a beautiful 6.5-year-old little boy, and I've been through the relationship side of things too. But all of those things prepped me and allowed me to get the emotional maturity to attract the right person into my life. And
Yeah.
it took me 39 years to find her, but I found her and she found me, and here we are.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. This is a great story. Okay. So, I want to ask you so many things. First, I just have to say it's really interesting because I put in quotes and wrote down, now you're the man of the house. So I was telling you pre-show that I interviewed incarcerated men for my dissertation research when I was getting my PhD. And that was actually one of the headings of one of my, it was a big part of a chapter because they would commonly say when their dads would go to prison,
Oh,
they would say
wow.
like, now you're the man of the house. And that heavy burden that they would bear and how they, what that meant for them. So this was really interesting to hear you say that. Wow, the school of life, brain tattoos. This is awesome. Okay, keep going. So tell us now. I know you've had since the gym. So you ended up selling the gym.
So we sold the two gyms for $1 million. So at 24, I became a millionaire, and we kind of sat back and just trained and kind of did all that. And then
Mhm.
in 2003, 2004, my father got the bug and the itch to open up another gym. So we went to a location outside of Philadelphia in East Falls, and we opened up our third and final location. But my parents' credit was shot to shit, and I was still the only one that could really afford to finance or do anything. So I basically just went along with the family, deal and everything that was going on, and financing this and leasing that. And 3 years later, so around 2007, I found myself in $1.5 million of liability debt. And I mean, completely the opposite of where I was 3 years before. That inevitably ended my first marriage, and my first ex-wife. She just did not trust what I was doing for business, didn't trust my father, and I don't blame her. We were young, and I did a lot of soul searching, and ended up getting remarried a second time, and we had a beautiful little boy. He's now almost 7, but I I realized in 2013. Um, I said it's interesting the path that you go on. I started doing something called network marketing, which some of your listeners might do or might have done. And I wasn't doing it for the sole purpose of what firing my boss or replacing my income or what people say online. I actually was doing it as an escape, because where my second marriage was going, we were just two opposite of people, and I needed a distraction,
Mhm.
and I put my time and energy and my effort into it. And they call it a personal development journey with a compensation plan attached to it. And I mean, I went full force personal development. I was journaling, I was meditating, I was reading books, I was listening to podcasts, and quickly I started to really just soak up as much as I could in. And before I knew it, 2 years later, I matched my income that I was making as a personal trainer And a year later, in 2016, I had not only launched my coaching program, which we'll talk about, but I was able to fully replace and let go of my gym. But there's a but. That personal development journey allowed me to step into my power and realize that my son was not going to see the best version of me if I stayed in that relationship, because it wasn't working. And I did it for her, I did it for him, and things are good. We've both moved on. We have a respectful, mutual relationship, co-parenting him. And he's just he's my best teacher. He teaches me so much, no fear, and just, just pushing yourself to the limits. So I always thank him for that. In 2016, actually almost 3 years ago, I was faced with one other big hurdle. So I had owned a property in South Philadelphia that it was a house I previously lived in, and I was selling it. So I was at closing, and I was expecting about a $38,000 profit from obviously what I sold it for to what, I had left on the mortgage. And I looked at the check, and it was for $812. And I said to my agent, I said, why is this for $812? And he said, you didn't get the email? And I said, no, what? He said, your dad had used your house as collateral for the gym equipment. And in order to sell the house, the bank had to take the money. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. And I remember going back to the gym, and I wasn't yelling or screaming, but if I didn't cut the cord with him, we were never going to have a father-son relation. We were never meant to do business together. Obviously, for certain circumstances, we had to. And I sat him down in my office and I said, listen, I think it's time that we part ways. I think it's time that you train at a different gym if we have any way of repairing this relationship. And he didn't argue. He didn't say a word. He packed his bags and he left. And it's great now. Our relationship has never been better. He actually said to me at brunch about a year ago, the best decision that I ever made for myself and him was kicking me out of the gym. Because he knows that things would have never changed. And I remember I was sitting in my office, and my dad's gone, and it's just me, and I'm looking at the books, and the gym is losing about $2,000 a month. And I called my attorney and I said, listen, I'm drowning here. I have this profitable network marketing business. I have a profitable coaching practice that I just launched, and this gym is taking me down. And he said, well, listen, you have two options. Option A, you continue doing what you're doing and try to crawl out of this and maybe make it work. And he said, option B, you file for personal bankruptcy. Now, people always ask, why personal bankruptcy? Why not business bankruptcy? Well, here's the curveball. I realized at that time when I had my dad leave the gym that I was the personal guarantor of the lease for the gym. And for people in business that don't know what that means, is that if something happens to the business, if the lease gets broken or the business goes under, the personal guarantor is personally responsible for taking over what is left of that lease, which at that time was $475,000. So my lawyer said, listen, to get out of this, to really restart your life, to get a fresh start, to really move forward, I'm going to recommend you file for bankruptcy. So on July 1st of 2016, almost 3 years ago to the day that we're recording this, I filed for bankruptcy. And people say, were you upset? Were you sad? No. It was the most freeing decision I have ever made in my entire life, because for the first time at that point, almost 18 years, my dad's dream was finally removed off of my shoulders. And I was actually able to breathe and move forward. And on July 31st, I officially closed the doors to the gym. August 1st, it was just me. And it was at that point. So, I've been on the earth for 40 years, but I really believe that my life began officially with meaning and purpose on August 1st of 2016.
Wow. You know, I love this because, and thank you so much for being so open and honest about all of your ups and downs and twists and turns. I think, you know, it's so important to share our stories with people because I think sometimes there's this misconception, especially if you go to people's social media feeds and that's the way you get to know them and you see all this great success. And and I know for you on your podcast that you're open with people about your story. And I think I'm really magnetic to people coming on my show that are similar. And because to me, it's so valuable for other people to hear because we've all had these big twists and turns in life. And sometimes it produces shame and fear and doubt and uncertainty. And when you know that other people who are successful have had that history, it allows you to be open. It allows you to grow and it allows you to learn and connect on that level. And I think it's so powerful. And, you know, one thing I want to highlight also is, you know, for everyone listening is thinking about the cycle of relationship habits and how, you know, you were in a cycle with your dad and you were the one to make a decision to change it. And that gave you the freedom to become who you are today. And that's really powerful because I'm sure that a lot of people listening have contentious relationships with their family.
Yeah.
Probably have resentment in certain areas. And I think it's powerful to decide to set boundaries. And it sounds like you had that moment where you knew if I continue on with my dad in this way, in this habituated pattern, my life is going to be taken down in a way that I don't want it to be. And so you set the boundary and you took a turn and now you're successful in a new way and you still get to have a relationship with your dad. And he also recognizes that it was for the benefit of both of you. And that's pretty powerful.
Well, it's one of those things where I realize that there's so many people that go through life and they feel like they're all alone. They feel like they're the only people that have been twice divorced. They're the only people that have filed for bankruptcy. They're the only people who have been personally incarcerated or have a family member. Like everyone feels like they're alone. So I share all of my ups and downs because I don't even see them as downs. You know, in order to learn how to succeed, you got to fail a couple times. Like you're not going to succeed every single time. You fail, you learn how to succeed, you get back up. And it's the quote by Les Brown, you know, you may get knocked down, but if you can look up, you can get up. And that's the thing. I've been knocked down a lot, but you know, it's so funny. I've always done things with grace and I've always done things with a smile on my face. No matter how bad my life was, I always found the silver lining. I always found some little way to put a smile on my face because it just felt better to be happy, even on the inside. Even if I was faking it just a little bit, it still made me feel good. And that's why I got so lost in my personal training. That's why I spent so much time at the gym because it was a lot of the things that I did were escapes. I was running away from things because running away from those things may have not been the best decision, but it allowed me to have that space and that time to figure my stuff out. Where now I'm not afraid to take things head on. Like bring it on because I know that I'm going to have to face something in order to overcome it.
Yeah. You know, I want to highlight too, and I don't know what you think about this, but sometimes I think when we take everything with a smile on our face, there's an underlying lack of facing it in a way of, like you're saying now, like taking it head on and going, okay, now I have this perspective where I can see the ups and downs and look at the way that it shaped me perfectly for who I am today. And because that's a lot of hard stuff to face. You were 18, 19 years old. That's young to take over a business, drop out of school or shift schools and take care of your family and have that responsibility. And then, you know, to have a dad who's incarcerated and then that's a lot of stuff. And all of us listening, I am sure if I'm sitting here, whenever I do podcasts, I write notes as people are talking, kind of like a timeline. And I write little things you're saying that I want to highlight or share or focus on. And I go, okay, if everyone here was listening and they tracked through the decades of their life, they would have a similar story they would have a similar story of challenge and overcoming and challenge and overcoming. Maybe the events would be differently, like the brain tattoos would be different, but we all have these challenges, and it's what you do with it that matters. So I love what you've done with it. So let's turn a little bit to your current business.
Sure.
And what you're doing now to help people. So it sounds like LinkedIn's your biggest platform now.
It is, it came out of necessity. So as I was building my network marketing business, because of the 60,000 plus hours of one-on-one personal training and the human connection that I really, really thrived on in a world of posting and praying and scrolling and trolling on Facebook and Instagram, I started to get disheartened. I was feeling extremely disconnected from the world. I found myself just kind of staring at my phone and, texting and messaging, and there was no contact. I wasn't hearing people's voices. I wanted to form relationships and bonds with people. So out of sheer necessity, in 2016, end of 2015, early 2016, I jumped on the LinkedIn. And, for people that don't know, it's actually the oldest social media platform. It came out in 1999, 2000, 5 or 6 years before Facebook and way before Instagram. And it was used back in the day more for recruiting and getting a job and a resume, that kind of thing. But it's really transformed over the last 20 years. And the big thing is this. When I got on there, I had a profile, didn't know how to use it, but I used it to the best of my own ability. So I changed some things on my profile to make it more attractive, where I was more relatable. I started messaging people in a genuine and authentic and non-spammy way. I started connecting with people that were just like me, other personal trainers, other gym owners, other nutritionists, and people started accepting my connections. They started responding to my messages, and I started closing people into my business. And I was like, holy shit, this thing works. So I called my buddy Joe Alonzo, who was also a professional network marketer. And I said, Joey, listen, you got to go on LinkedIn, and I want you to do A, B, and C. A, I want you to change your profile and do this. B, I want you to start connecting with other people in outside sales like you. And C, I want you to start messaging this way. Hey, great to connect with you. I see that we do something similar. Anytime for a call later this week. And I just want you to do that. A week later, he shoots me a text message and he goes, dude, call me. So I called him and I said, Joey, what's up? He goes, listen, just want to let you know, whatever you're doing, he goes, it really works. I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, I did A, B, and C, fixed my profile, connected with other people in sales, and sent them some messages. He goes, Scott, I got 14 calls this week booked. He goes, so I don't know what you're doing or what you're onto, but you should put some structure around this, like do some videos, maybe even coach people. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, you have something here. So I ended up going on my first business coach was a mindset coach. He still is. He's phenomenal. His name's Jeffrey Combs. And he had me on his podcast, and he just started grilling me about LinkedIn. And I was throwing all these stats because when I fall in love with something, I read blogs and I just search as much as I can because I want to know as much as I can. And I started dropping all these nuggets and how it's great for network marketing, how it's great for building brands and online businesses and blah, blah, blah. And after I got off the podcast, which was a live call, I went onto Facebook and I had like 9 inboxes on Facebook. Can you help me? Can you help me? Can you teach me? I didn't have a website. I didn't have a way to take payment. I didn't even know what I was going to be charging for this thing. But I had to create on demand. So
awesome. Yeah.
I made up a price and I told them what I can do. And I basically started teaching people to the best of my ability. And that in February of 2016 was the beginning of my LinkedIn coaching practice.
That's great. Okay. So tell listeners top 3 LinkedIn tips.
Well, there's 3 things that you need to know. So if you're in network marketing, if you're an online marketer, if you're a business coach, whatever it is, there's 3 things that you need to know. Number 1, you need to know your age demographic, your average yearly income and the size of the organic, keyword is organic. Now, I'm not talking about fans or paying for, friends or whatever, organic connections. Now, Facebook and Instagram are exactly the same because they're owned by the same person. So the average age of someone on Facebook and Instagram is 18 to 29 years old with a yearly income of $30,000 a year or less. And you're only allowed 5,000 connections on Facebook. So interestingly enough, I was at a personal development event in California about 4.5 years ago, and it was about leadership and connecting and conversations. So the head trainer of the event called up some of the top builders, the top marketers in the room on stage. And there was a whiteboard behind him, and he had this pen. And he said, here, take this pen, and I want you to go to this board, and I want you to write down how many conversations it's taken you to get to where you are right now. And he did this with about 5 or 6 people. And I'm looking at the board. The smallest number I saw was 7,000 conversations. And I said to myself, shit, if I'm using Facebook and I'm only allowed 5,000 quote unquote friends, I'm not going to be able to build this business. And then I looked at LinkedIn. Average age, 35 to 55. Average income, $100,000 a year or more. And you're allowed 30,000 organic connections. I grew my network from 500 to 26,400 in 3 years.
Wow. But okay, explain to me, because I don't even know what that means, that you can only have 5,000 friends on Facebook.
On Facebook. Yeah, so on your personal page, you're only allowed 5,000 friends.
On your personal page. Okay. So like on business pages, you can have an unlimited number of followers.
Yeah, we're not, because business pages, so there's a whole other thing behind that.
You're talking about
organic.
Okay.
Organic connections, because those are going to be your best relationships.
Okay.
Facebook earns, profits, puts in their pocket $2.3 billion with a B dollars per year from people running promotions and boosting posts on their business pages. It is No.
No, and you don't teach your clients to?
Nope.
So you teach everyone to generate leads through organic connections.
You should not have to pay to learn how to communicate with human beings.
Okay, this is awesome. I want to dig deeper. Okay, so on LinkedIn, you said it's 35 to 55, 100K plus, and 30,000 organic connections.
Yep, and here's the other thing.
Let's say you want to find a new connection, and you're looking to grow. Let's say you want to find a client, and you're doing lead generation.
Yep.
Walk us through a process.
So there's a 4-step process, and everything needs to speak to each other. So number one, you need to make sure that your profile is optimized. And the beautiful thing about this, and I'm glad you brought this up, is that when Microsoft, and a lot of people don't know this, Microsoft bought LinkedIn out 3 years ago. Okay. Microsoft recently just became the 3rd company in history to hit the $1 trillion valuation mark. So you have a monster running this platform. So they're a technology company and they're a cybersecurity company. So I know and I know Facebook and Instagram got shut down 3 times in the last 7 months. They had quote unquote blackouts. That will happen again, and it's never going to happen on LinkedIn, knock on wood, because you have a cybersecurity company that's running the show. So when Microsoft bought them out, they took the same SEO, search engine optimization technology of Bing, Yahoo, and Google and embedded it onto your profile on LinkedIn. So if your profile is filled out completely, and just to plug, if you go to my website, www.scottaaron.net, I have something called the free infographic. It's a free download. It shows you exactly how to optimize your profile. So when you can optimize your profile the right way, having the right keywords about what you do for business, you will start to appear in more searches, which means you're more visible, more connectable, and you'll have more people reaching out to you. That's step one.
Yeah, I have to share with everyone. That's really powerful because, of course, you're always told Google your own name. And I remember when I did that, it's like, oh, my business name came up under LinkedIn. That's just so cool, you
That's
know?
what LinkedIn's for. It's a
Yeah.
business platform. So number
Yeah.
2 is also searching and connecting. You are not looking to connect with anyone. You are looking to connect with the mirror image of your business avatar.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are a business coach and you're an executive coach, I'm going to use my client Jackie Service as an example. She's an ex-HR in corporate, and she's an executive coach now, teaching HR people how to better organize their life, but also start an entrepreneurial business if they want to. So her target market is other people in human resources. So what does she do? A couple times a week, she will go on to LinkedIn, and there's a little search bar, and she types in human resources and then searches. She then sends out some to connections of people that have the same business background as her, because they are going to be the ones that most likely will accept, because they're going to see that her profile looks just like theirs. So when someone accepts, that leads you to step 3, which is messaging people. Now, for anyone that's listening to this or has ever spent any time on LinkedIn, they've probably received those ridiculous drunkalog messages that are 7 paragraphs long. Check this video out. Schedule a call with me here. I do this. I can show you how to make $5,000 an hour. Just let's talk. No. So here's the simple 3-step process to messaging someone on LinkedIn. Step 1, state their name. Hey, Amanda, great to be connected to you. Step 2, tell them why you're reaching out without selling or telling. I see that you also have a fitness background just like me. Would love to hear more about how you got started in it. Step 3, call to action. Ask them when a good time to talk would be. Do you have any time this week or next week to talk about a little bit more in depth about what we're doing, to see if we can help others or network together? State their name, reason for reaching out, call to action. Questions always lead to answers. You have to ASK to GET. Ask to get. If you make statements, they lead to nothing. Now, the 4th and most magical process is social media content. Right now, Gary Vaynerchuk, who I'm sure you're familiar with,
Yeah.
on the Gary V Experiment podcast about 5 weeks ago, he said that 2019 is the year of LinkedIn. He said if you're going to get on there and have a footprint, you get on there now. Engagement-wise, it's where Facebook was 5 to 7 years ago. He has shifted his entire brand onto LinkedIn. His entire brand. There's only 600 million people on there, which means it's 5 times less than Facebook. Facebook has 3.2 billion. So everyone is fishing in an overcrowded red ocean right now when they could be fishing in a crystal clear blue sea on LinkedIn. But the 4th and final aspect is social media content. So now you have this great profile, you're searching and connecting for the right people, and you're messaging the right people. Now you have to talk to them through social media. So you need to put out one piece of social media content on LinkedIn a day. I don't care if it's a post, if it's an article, if it's a video, or a discussion in a group. You need to put content out there for the sole purpose of speaking to your network. So if you are growing a network full of HR representatives, your content should be derived towards speaking to the HR individual, because guess what? That's going to resonate with them, which means they're going to engage, and they're going to resonate with you and then want to talk to you. So always provide thought-provoking, positive, thought leadership content with a call to action in your posts. Let me know your thoughts. What did you think about this? What advice would you give? Engage with your audience. The idea of LinkedIn is to do the only thing that every person is seeking, and that is human connection. You can't do this on Facebook, and you can't do this on Instagram. Right now, LinkedIn is the #1 social media platform where you can use social media in a positive way, where you're not scrolling and trolling, you're not literally posting and praying, where you're actually creating human connection and relationship with people that care about you and you care about them.
Wow, this is packed. Okay, I hope that everyone had their pen and paper out and are taking notes, because this is awesome. If you are a person who's looking to move to LinkedIn, you're on LinkedIn, those are incredible tips. And they're really simple, but I think they're ones that people overlook. And that I am certain, you said, how many people are you connected to on LinkedIn, you said?
Almost 27,000 now.
So what happens when you get to 30?
So you can actually do one of two things. You can let the follow feature kick in, or you can actually put a request in to the help desk to ask, would it be okay if I actually went over my 30,000 limit, which in some cases they will allow you to connect with more.
Wow, that's fascinating. Okay. And you've built your whole business around this 4-step strategy, or I guess it's a 3-step strategy.
There's two things that I live by: simplification and ease. And that's what I do with this.
Yeah. And so your whole business is online coaching, LinkedIn, on
Absolutely.
LinkedIn clients.
Yep.
Okay. This has been incredible, packed with value. Tell us your top 3 max potential habits that got you where you are today.
Number 1, consistency. Without consistency, you cannot create and have the compound effect take place. Number 2, falling in love with the word no. There's a great book. There's a great book that I read called Go for No by Andrea Waltz and Richard Fenton, called Go for No. And it says, yes is the destination and no is how you get there. So when I realized that the person that gets the most no's is also going to get the most yeses, because they're going to talk to the most people, they're always going to win. So that's what I live by. Number 3, and most powerful, someone actually asked me this the other day: how would you describe yourself in one word? Resilient. No matter what is thrown at me, I will find a way to overcome.
Awesome. And that, to me, that's a mindset habit, right?
It is.
Oh, this has been awesome, Scott. Thank you. Packed with tons of value. I mean, I'm really excited about it, just even myself learning, because I am, when I started my business, I kind of was like, oh, I'll get on every social media channel. And I've been fine tuning and learning. And I've really lately been into LinkedIn. And I'm like, LinkedIn is awesome. I love the connections I'm making there, and just the different types of content that you can put out there, because you can't easily put articles on Instagram, and I have Facebook and I post there, but I'm not super active because I just haven't been drawn to that platform as much. Yeah. And I love LinkedIn. So this has been incredible, and a surprise. I wasn't expecting you to go so deep and give us so much content and value. I mean, I didn't know. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm certain people are going to want to connect with you. So what is the best way? I'm sure, and I will post all of this in the show notes as well. So you said your website is Scott Aaron, and that's ScottAaron.net.
Yep. And you can download the free infographic. You can get my book, the LinkedIn book for network marketing, or you can also schedule a free 15-minute coaching session with me to learn more. On Instagram, it's at Scott Aaron LinkedIn. Facebook is Scott Aaron. LinkedIn is Scott Aaron. Everywhere is Scott Aaron.
Okay. Awesome. And those will be in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here.
You're so welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you're liking this podcast, help spread the word by subscribing, sharing, leaving a rating and a review. To connect, go to nfacoaching.com, where you can join the Max Potential Habits community and get access to all of my free and paid resources. There's daily inspiration on Instagram, IGTV videos, access to the Max Potential Habits LinkedIn group, and links for working with me in the live weekly Max Potential Habits online group training, the NFA Money Magnet Habits online course, and if you're really serious about taking it to the next level, you can also schedule a Max Potential coaching consult. Until next time, I hope you have a NFA day where you thrive and feel alive.